Hey guys, just before we get into this episode of Grassroots Racer, I'd like to thank yet another one of my partners, Ruggier Cabinetry and Construction. Ruggier Cabinetry and Construction are a Ballarat-based family-owned business who specialise in construction of sheds, carpentry, joinery and small-scale earthworks. The team take pride in workmanship they do on every job, and they have a wide range of experienced trades that work alongside them for any job. Whether it's a new shed, commercial, domestic carpentry, small renovations, kitchens, cabinets, ropes, and vanities, they can do it all. If you need a quote, contact Jason and the team through their website or Facebook page and let them help your next project become a reality. Thanks guys, and enjoy this episode. Hey everybody, just before we get into this episode of Grassroots Racer, where I can't wait to catch up with someone who started racing as a grassroots racer, but has gone on to racing and be successful in many other categories. And he's done a lot in his career. He's more than a grassroots racer. He's been very successful all the way. So to hear more about his motorsport journey, I welcome Justin Ruggier. Hi Justin, and
Hey. Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
I'm really good, Justin. It's even better that you're on here talking to me, considering you're a bit more than a grassroots racer. But everyone started somewhere. So how did you get your passion for motorsport?
Look, basically my dad is a big racing enthusiast. And so since the age of about 6, I was always around motorsport, whether it be Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, V8 touring cars. Australian Touring Car Championship was pretty big back then, the old Ford Sierras and all them days, the Peter Brock days. So it's pretty cool. But from about eight years old, started racing karts. And then from there just progressed slowly into cars. So pretty cool career.
Sounds really cool already. So you said you started in karting. How long did you do that for?
Look, I only actually done a kart race back in April, raising money for breast cancer awareness. So I'm always up for challenges. I don't really want to stop racing, but karting's always been, obviously, like you said, part of your program's a grassroots race, and that's where you start. So since the age of 8. I'm 39 now and still doing karting, but yeah, cars is where my absolute passion is. I love racing on the big tracks. I love racing street circuits. I love that type of atmosphere like Clipsal, Bathurst, Townsville, where the fans are on top of you, you know what I mean, instead of just a normal fixed circuit. So karting's been a big part of my career.
But how did you progress from karts to cars and into the big world of car racing?
I think, it's important as a kid or someone that has big dreams, to progress out of karting. It's important that you try and start. I mean, there's no age, but I suppose obviously progression. So it's important as a young age to try and set yourself some goals. I wanted to be club champion, and then from club champion, I wanted to be a state champion, and then from a state champion, I wanted to be a national champion. So these are the milestones that I took, personal goals that I had. And again, dreams without goals are just dreams, so you just got to keep chasing that goal and that milestone. So out of that, instead of staying in one category, every time I won, I moved on different classes. So in karting, there's a whole succession of classes: junior, senior, national, all different type of engines. Every time I won a category, I moved on. That's what's important, to grow as a person, okay? So in karting, I won 4 Australian titles and I won 6 state titles. So basically, ideally for me, 16, 17 is when you want to be out. But financial constraints, karting and cars, totally different story, like humongous difference in funding. So, we got in early 20s in cars, fortunately enough, but we were on and off all the time because of funding. It's just a big, big expense.
Did you ever race overseas or want to race overseas?
Yeah, definitely. I always wanted to try and do some GT stuff or open wheeler stuff, but obviously, again, you need to focus on being realistic as well. There's no point going overseas and having that on your resume if you're not in a front running team. And that's what I've done in Australia. Is always aligned myself in a team that have all the vision that you have, whether it's karting, whether it's cars. I'd rather do 5 races a year and have 5 chances of winning than having 20 races a year and having, 3 chances of winning. So I've always aligned myself. People remember you as, from when you win. They don't sort of remember you if you come second, sort of thing. Aspirations always was overseas, and I did manage to do that with the Williams F1 team back in 2007. So I won a simulator challenge because I always looked at different avenues. So if you can't do real racing, I always turn to the gaming scene. And back in 2007, I found a Williams F1 gaming challenge. I won that. I went overseas with Williams. I raced an open wheeler over there, and I come first in the world. So there's all these avenues that you can do. I won another challenge with McLaren F1 team, and I went over to McLaren in England, in Woking. Went to the technology centre over there, and then went to the Silverstone Grand Prix with McLaren. Didn't do any racing, but being around that atmosphere, it just reignited my passion for the sport, reignited me wanting to be the best I can be.
I know that you competed in the Kumho Tyres V8 Touring Car Championship. That must have been pretty exciting for you. Can you tell me a bit about it, and do you have any standout memories?
Yeah, I think 2014 was a massive memory for me and our family. Really, I suppose I'm only one of 5 drivers in Australian history to win 2 national titles in 1 year. I won the AASA Production Car Series and the Kumho V8 Touring Car Series as well, and we come second in go-karting that year as well in another championship that I did. So. The V8 Touring Car Series was nerve-wracking. To support that dream, put my house on the line if I was to have a big accident. So it was daunting for me the first couple of rounds, just getting used to it, just understanding, not taking too much risk. Standout for me would be the people involved in the whole journey. From sponsors, from work colleagues, to fans, to the team, Eggleston Motorsport. You can't, I wish I could show you all the trophies I have of that team. I always see their face in the cup, and that's the thing that's important, man. It's aligning yourself with these beautiful people allow you to get the best out of you without risking too much. So that's the highlight. It grew me as a person. It shaped me who I am today. And I'll never forget their memories. And I'll just show you something quickly, just so you know how serious I am. That's the bonnet off that car that I won with, and all the crew have signed that bonnet, okay, including a lot of good friends of mine from V8 Supercars. So my wife asked me, what am I doing with that bonnet? That it's on my wall. That's what I'm doing with that bonnet. So, a lot of cool memories, man. And I talk to that team pretty much every week.
Yeah, you obviously had a really good relationship with Eggleston Motorsport, and you and the whole team were able to connect. So I guess that helped you in a lot of ways.
There's another story to that too, just so everyone knows as well, is that I reached out to about 6 different teams in the V8 Touring Car Series, right? So I sent out a lot of emails, my background. Again, I was a bit green in that space. I've never driven a V8 supercar before in my life, but had a lot of experience in other areas. Only 2 teams got back to me. Eggleston, extremely professional, with all these emails and flyers and all sorts of stuff. Hard to, a lot to absorb. And Matt White, who's very, very renowned in Super 2, okay? Matt White said to me, and I'll never forget it, look, understand, I'll be taking a big risk with you if I put you on. And I was still trying to get all the funding together. And he said, look, I'd have to give it a miss, right? And that determined me more as a person, because it made me feel angry inside that even though with all your milestones, you might be a karting champion, you might be a production car champion, it means nothing to some people, which is fair enough, But Eggleston took me under my wing, and I worked extremely hard to prove Matt White wrong, I suppose, in respect. That voice was always in my head. And he rang me mid-season, and he said, mate, I was so wrong about you, you know. And he gave me a test in a Super 2 car. First taste, I had one in a Nissan Altima in Winton, and I'll be forever grateful for that. And I've got a lot of respect for the guy and his crew and his team. So there's always stories. There's always things that you need to put in your head. You need to bank them. As my dad always says, man, do the racing on the track. Do all the talking on the track. Don't do all the talking out of the car. You know what I mean? So keep it zipped up in pit lane. When you get out on the track, do all the talking on the track.
Yeah, I really can't believe that you've talked to people like Matt White and you've had such a great relationship with him and Eccleston Motorsport. I know you've also raced Aussie racing cars. They look amazing. Do they handle well or are they difficult to drive?
Oh, they're pretty fun car, man. And again, that's all from relationships, man. How I got back into the seat. I was out of a seat for a long time, and Western Sydney Motorsport, through good friends of mine that I helped when they got into Aussie racing cars the first time, reached out to that team. They were looking for someone for a one-off, and I had to make an impression to sort of stay within that team. Luckily, on debut, we won. So cool cars to drive. Very the championship itself to try and win is so hard. It's probably one of the hardest ones and the most daunting ones to try and win because of the point structure. And when you win races, you get success ballast or success restrictors, as they call them, which then bring you back to the field. So it's so hard to win a race, right? Yeah. And that's the beauty about that category is you have to always think strategy. You always have to think smart. You got to train so hard to be fit. You got to work well with your crew. Extremely hard cars to drive, tyre management, gear shifting, engine horsepower. Mega cars to drive. And you've seen the type of racing we put on. You know, it was pretty cool in 2019, man, banging doors and, you know, 4 wide. Where do you get that kind of racing?
Yeah, it's amazing watching the Aussie racing cars. I actually met someone in Phillip Island who had a Mercedes one, even though they're all the same underneath. From my research of Aussie racing cars, they genuinely have a 1.3 litre engine and up to 135 brake horsepower, twin cam, 16 valve engine that revs up to 11,500 RPM, and it's about half a tonne. What does it feel like to have just, you know, that much power in such a small car?
Yeah, short wheelbase as well, and they're just so cool to drive. You know, it's always you feel like you're on edge. And I remember the engineer Paul Rydek. He said, "Mate, you're turning the wheel like just always like this when you're driving, and you need to slow your hands down." I said, "Well, let's try." So I went out, done a session, and slowed my hands, and I was really smooth, and I was 7/10 slower a lap. And then he goes, "Look, go back to your normal self. You know, driving to the point where you're nearly losing the car every corner, so to speak." And I got my time back up again. So everyone's got a different way of driving the car. But yeah, I managed to find a sweet spot for me where the car needs to be loose, right? Because of the horsepower, it's only 135 horsepower. If you have the car tight, as they say, it bogs the engine down. So you need to have the car loose and then drive around that you know, the way that it handles, being loose.
I guess it's we mentioned before that you've done a lot of karting, and it's very similar in a sense. The less grip you have, the quicker you're going to go because the engine's not going to wind up and bog out of the corner, you know.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you know, with karting, the biggest change is the vision. So karting, usually you get to the apex in your turn. When you're an Aussie racing car, all that vision's gone. It's such a different dynamic, different feel. You're on a massive track, so wide, and you need to pinpoint your apex a lot earlier on to maximize that. With karting, you know, you arrive and you turn, and you know it's so hard to miss an apex in a go-kart, man. You know what I mean? Because you can see all that. But once you're in an Aussie racing car and you sit really low and you've got roll cages, dash, all that kind of stuff at your perspex window that's scratched to hell and you can't see out of it anyway. Yeah, it's such a different feeling from karting. It's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to being in a small car on a big track. on a big track, because last year I drove supercarts, so we were going pretty quick, and we're in this tiny little go-kart just with a bigger engine. So I definitely understand what you mean, like bigger track and smaller car. But driving in a car, like from the simulator, it definitely looks like you don't have as much vision. Is it true that you wanted a Porsche for years and now you finally have one? What is it about Porsches that you really love?
I think, it's, I suppose as a kid, we've all got dreams. Some people want to do the Olympics, some people want to race. I banked a few things in my life, as in what I'd like to achieve. I've still got a long journey. There's a lot of things I haven't ticked off, but like you said, the Porsche GT3 RS for me is the pinnacle, and why it stood out is the Carrera Cup GT3. It's been around for a long time. I think probably early 2000s. So that's all I got to see on TV. But they made a road version car of that car. So essentially, you've got a Carrera Cup car in your garage, that roll cage, bucket seats, full Porsche history. I tracked my car at Bathurst 2020. Done a 2-minute 20 on Cup 2 road tyres, which is, to me, I think is going okay. It just goes to show, and you get track warranty in that, but 16-year dream, and it happened. Luckily enough to get an allocation. There's a massive story behind that just to even get an allocation. And, thanks to my wife, we've worked quite hard. It's a lot of money sitting in the garage, unfortunately. But, look, at the end of the day, I mean, if I wasn't meant to have it, I wouldn't have it. But it's always a buzz getting out in that car.
Yeah, so do you do many tracks on it, or track days or anything like that? Or do you just take it out for fun sometimes?
I've only done the one track day. I took it. Look, Bathurst was always a bucket list in that car, and just to leave pit lane, go up Mountain Straight, and just hear that flat 6 4-litre 9,000 RPM is just something that will sit with me every day. Really, just blessed, And going into the cutting, sort of going over the top, hitting the grate, I just can't explain how good that car is for a road version, and drive it home. How is that even possible, man? So look, it's a glorious car to look at. Like I said, a lot of emotions tied up in that car. From the way I spec'd it, how it got delivered, how it performs on track. It just ticks all the boxes for me. That's why I love the GT3 RS, and will continue to love that car, because it's naturally aspirated, no turbos, race car, but road registered.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. If lockdown ever ends, do you have some plans to do some more racing in the future? And if so, which category?
I've always wanted to do Carrera Cup. That's one category I've never done. I suppose, look, mate, I'm 39. I'm always wanting to race. I do have a family now, 2 kids, beautiful wife. Yeah, look, I love me sim racing. Luckily doing the eSeries through cash converters, thankfully, pretty cool setup. Do a lot of racing with Shane Van Gisbergen. I was qualifying just before this interview, getting ready for Saturday's endurance race in LMP2 cars. I suppose the vision for me in racing, I suppose you get to that point in life where, you can fund as much as you want to fund, you know what I mean? But there's a bit of a change in the way I look at things now. Is racing on my horizon? Not really. It's about teaching and helping young kids like yourself. That's my passion now. Going out of my way to help guys like yourself and do interviews and just try and set that pathway and encourage guys to or girls to go and chase their dreams. You know what I mean? Set some goals. I love coaching people. I love bringing people here to coach on my simulator. I learn every day too. Okay, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I make a mistake every day. It's about doing one thing better every day, though. So for me, racing, it's paused at the moment. I'd like to see my kids grow a bit older, see what they're into, what kind of sports they want to get into, and then see what happens. And if they want to go racing, they can go see their grandparents for the money, mate, not me. So.
That's really amazing. Do you have anything that you would like to say to any people who are about my age and are just transitioning from karting to cars, maybe?
I think what's important is you definitely need to surround yourself around positive people. Don't be around negative people at all. Go on your judgment as well. There's a lot of people out there that can steer you in the wrong direction. Unfortunately, it's like anything, mate. Business. If you're going to spend $1, you want to get 2 back. So anything I'm going to say, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that supported me over my journey and continue to support us in our journey. Please reach out if you ever need a hand. It was a pleasure seeing you, sending me a message. And like I said, I love taking my time out to help people like yourself and steer as many people in the right direction as mainly possible.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight, Justin. And we were just talking about before the Supercars eSeries. What was it like racing with them guys? It seemed really cool, but unfortunately you finished 15th due to some incidents.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story, to be racing for cash converters in the Ford Mustang and the eSeries is pretty cool. Again, I take my sim racing just as seriously as I do as my real racing. Again, cash converters as a sponsor. So again, you got to do the right things. Been doing a bit of videos and stuff back and forth with them. But yeah, it is a massive bummer, to be honest. A lot of effort went in for that race on my side. And, my spotter, my crew chief worked very hard with me to put me in that position as well. Excuse me. So yeah, basically, we're running 7th, minding our own business, looking after tyres. My car was really, really fast. We all got the same setup though, but it's the way I was managing the tyres. My crew chief was telling me all the time, just stay high, stay low, stay high, cool the tyres. So yeah, I reckon we could have done probably a top 4 finish. In my view, I was second fastest car on the track. So yeah, it's a big bummer. Got caught up in someone else's incident, blew the engine, and yeah, I was 2 laps down, and yeah, hard to recover then. So it needs to be like a 2-hour race to be able to recover, if you know what I mean. So
will we see Justin Ruggier back for more rounds of the Supercars eSeries?
Yeah, I'm contracted to do the whole series, so that's pretty cool. Like I said, I'm looking forward to next week. Got a massive race on this Saturday in Shane Van Gisbergen's and Nick Foster's series, the Apex 100 United series. So looking forward to that. We're currently second in the championship for that. But for the E-Series, yeah, we just need to keep chipping away at it, man, and get the points on the board and try and be there at the end of the series. Yep.
How do you believe the best way is to approach people for sponsorship or partnership?
Yeah, again, the sponsorships mainly come from networking, positioning yourself with some nice companies that have the same vision. I mean, you're not going to go to someone that's passionate about tennis and try and steer them into motor racing because it's not going to work. So again, I think the biggest thing is in these days compared to my days is about social media, getting your name out there. If you really want to do it, simulator, exposure, get into everything motor racing. Like they usually say, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. So it's about sort of being around and being amongst these people that are passionate and keep persisting. No's not a good answer, change your strategies and be around people that are passionate about the sport, that are willing to sort of back you as a sponsor.
Yeah, and would you say the same thing goes for sim racers out there who are trying to get sponsors to support their sim racing so they can get better equipment?
I think the best way to look at it too is like, say for instance, if someone come to me personally and said, "Hey Justin, would you sponsor my son?" I suppose what I would want to know is, look, yeah, okay, I'm going to give you X. What am I going to get out of that? That's the approach you need to have, because look, people aren't just going to give money away for the sake of giving money away. You need to be able to give money back. You need to give something back to that person somehow, their company, engage, think outside the box. What can you do differently to be able to set yourself up to sort of have a 2-3 year plan? There's no point going into, that's what I failed at in V8 touring cars in 2014. I didn't have a 2015 plan, because I was so focused on 2014. By the time I won two Australian championships, money's dried up. I was fatigued. I had no energy whatsoever to keep going. And 2015 should have been a better year again. but it couldn't be because I was, I wasn't focused on a 2 to 3 year plan. Okay, so, and I suppose people weren't expecting the success either, right? So this is the thing: you got to have strategy. You got to have the right people looking for you. You've got to do a lot of work. Do all the work yourself. Okay, that's the biggest message. So you do the presenters, you do all the calls, you do all the submissions, you do all the following up. You ring them before you get to the track. You engage with them. I still talk to all my sponsors now, man, even though I don't race. Do you know what I mean? It's the relationship. It's not about asking them for more money. It's about, hey, man, I'm here. Can I do anything for you? Are your kids racing yet? Can I come to the track and offer my services for free? You help me. You help me with all these, right?
Yeah.
You help me with all them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And them ones too. So it just, you got to remember where you come from, right?
Yeah. My dad is very big on that. He always makes sure that I go and visit my partners who support me all the time and go do something for them. I like to use this year, it's my gimbal. I sometimes go into the small businesses and I try and do an ad for them and post it on my social media and try and get some of my followers to go into the store and say hi and tell them that I sent them. Do you have any other social medias that people can find you on and keep up with what you've done in motorsport?
Yeah, so Instagram is at jruggier8. So at JRUGGIER number 8. Facebook, yeah, I've got my personal Facebook that I use more than my racing account on Facebook. But either or, Justin Ruggier again on Facebook, and again I've got a motorsport page. I am on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, look, I suppose if you look at it, I should have maximised the social media a lot better a few years ago. But yeah, so it's important, again, a message for your listeners that you maximise the social media. Start it early. Document all your races, post and before. People like seeing that. People like to hear the real stories. When there's success, it's not all glory. Like I said, 2014 nearly broke me as a person emotionally because, mate, I nearly went broke. You know what I mean? Trying to race for plastic trophies. No prize money in Kumo Series, no prize money in WSA Endurance Series, and no prize money in karting, okay? So it was a big toll on me personally. So again, it's important that you maximise that social media space.
And lastly, Justin, is there anyone out there who you haven't mentioned yet that you would like to support, whether it be sponsors, family, or friends, anyone to give a shout out to? Because you've mentioned a lot of people already, but is there anyone else that you'd like to mention?
Look, again, man, I'm just blessed. I've got a diary, mate, that if I ever win the lotto, with everyone's name, that's given me $10, $20, $50, $100 to do my racing. And that day, I hope it comes. Or if I do, successful in my life, I'd love to go back to all them people to just say, look, here you go. Really appreciate what you've done for me and my family. So yeah, it's hard to sort of, well, it's not hard, but I'd be here for months, man, rattling off names, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, well, you've definitely mentioned a lot to me tonight, Justin. It's been great catching up with you, and I really enjoyed hearing about your racing journey. I'd love to meet up at the track one day if racing ever goes back to normal. I loved hearing about your journey, talking about Matt Wyatt and Eccleston Motorsport. Those must have been amazing experiences. Thanks again, and to all the viewers, I really appreciate all the ongoing support, and it means a lot to me. And listening to someone like Justin, who's a really positive man, and I've really enjoyed chatting to him because he just brings all this positivity, and I think we should share that around. So he tries and helps those who aren't as fortunate by giving his time up, and that's really important. So I'd just like to say to everyone, thanks so much for supporting me and support Justin, and I hope that everyone stays safe in lockdown. For those fortunate enough to still be racing, remember, drive fast and take chances. Thanks so much, Justin.
Thank you, mate. It's been a pleasure. And like I said, just keep chipping away, mate. I'm very, very proud of you, and I appreciate you reaching out, and it's been a pleasure to be part of your show.
Thanks, Justin.